Hey everyone, Brandon here. Thank you for checking out this week's episode of the Nightmares podcast about Scream Queens Season 2. Just as a warning to all of you, we are going into heavy spoilers for the season and the series as a whole. So if you have not checked out Scream Queens Season 2 yet, or if you haven't checked out Scream Queens in general, check it out. It's a really great show, but if you don't care about spoilers, go ahead and give us a listen, and yeah, enjoy the episode.
And of course, if you are checking this out on YouTube, this is entirely audio only. If you want to listen to this on any other streaming service, click the link below.
Anyway, I'm Brandon. With me as always are
Mark,
Zach.
and today we are talking about Scream Queens again.
Season 2.
Yes.
So as if everybody wants to get an opportunity to check out our previous podcast where we talked about Season 1, the general gist of it is that we all loved it. It was a very, very pleasant surprise. The Brandon's selling point for this series was a bunch of frat boys going down the street wearing all white while the Backstreet Boys plays in the background while they beat up cars and killers with baseball bats. And I'm like, and I did the whole Rick and Morty thing. I'm like, son of a bitch, I'm in. And I was in the entire time. It was great.
In so many words, yes, that is what happened.
I went in with 2 beers because I thought the show was going to be stupid. And it did start off stupid, but it eventually gets really fucking funny.
And you know what? And for the most part, Season 2 does that. It's a different kind of setting. It kind of follows the formula of Ryan Murphy, who obviously did American Horror Story. It's a pseudo anthology, but you do have a lot of the recurring characters coming in.
Yeah,
and you're in a different location.
Each season was going to be a new location. So like Season 1 was the college campus. Season 2 goes to a hospital. And they kind of teased that if there was going to be a Season 3, it would probably be a TV studio. But unfortunately, we didn't get a Season 3, so
it's a real shame.
That is, I don't think that this show got as much attention as it probably should have.
I was the only person I knew who was actually watching it as it was going on the air.
I had heard about it.
Here's the thing: it wasn't advertised at all. Like I saw posters for this like maybe a year after it came out and stuff. I'm just like, the hell? I thought it was a documentary. Because they had Jamie Lee Curtis. I'm like, oh, is this supposed to be like a bunch of final girls? But I'm like, Emma Roberts, what the fuck was she in?
Yeah,
Scream 4.
What the fuck was she in?
Scream 4.
It was great. Anyway, and actually I saw a few advertisements for it, but honestly, like it looked like it had no appeal to me whatsoever. Like just from the advertisements, I'm like this is it's whatever. I can take it or leave it. But if I known what the show was about. And it was properly advertised, and I definitely would have watched that. But it's fucking Fox. What are you gonna do? They do not know how to handle good television for some reason. I don't know.
It's amazing to me because when American Horror Story came out, they advertised the ever-living shit out of that goddamn show.
That is the fucking difference between FX and Fox. FX is a fantastic network. Fox is not so much.
Sadly, here's the thing. I actually enjoy this show. I can't sit through a season of American Horror Story. I've tried. Tried Season 1, thought it was stupid. I've tried Season, what the hell was it, 4? What was Season 4 again?
Freak Show?
Yeah, stupid. And the recent one, 84, which was just boring as all hell.
I do greatly prefer Scream Queens to American Horror Story. And if American Horror Story really wants to get back on my good side, whenever they have their final season, if they can make that also an additional season of Scream Queens, I'll be totally okay with that.
I'll be in too. I
would at least give it a chance if that was the case.
That
would be interesting.
That would be interesting.
Get some supernatural
a lot of the cast from Scream Queens went over, like Emma Roberts and Billy Lord, like they went over to American Horror Story after. Actually, Emma Roberts was on American Horror Story before Scream Queens Coven, but then she went back after Scream Queens was
I heard
done.
she was a similar character. Kind of bitchy and self-conceited and everything else.
Well, she plays a much different character in 84.
Yeah.
So
she has good range.
Fair enough. So season 2 is being held in a hospital. So the season actually starts out with in 1985.
The year that Out of Africa came out.
I don't. You continuously bring that up, and it's also the same year that Back to the Future came out.
Yep.
The
I think it was also the year A Room with a View came out.
The fuck is A Room with a View?
a joke that happens later on in the show, which is ironic. So
Was there 85 or 86?
Ooh.
So the show starts out in the past, the same way that season 1 started out as well, with kind of a interesting story going on. We have a guest star appearance from Jerry O'Connell, who was playing one of the doctors in there. So apparently there's a huge Halloween party going on at this particular hospital
Yep.
back in 1985.
And the staff likes to let loose on Halloween.
In a real true 80s style, most of them were looking for Quaaludes and doing coke.
It was
and-
the doctor himself who was looking for Quaaludes.
which is hilarious and also incredibly factually accurate. That actually happened a lot back in the day. So
Doctors look for Quaaludes while patients were dying on hospital beds?
oh, I'm sure that happened, but doctors looking
there
for
are a lot of
Quaaludes,
hospitals in the world, so I'm sure it's happening at least one of them.
for sure.
Well, shit.
So anyway, so there is a couple that is there. They're literally the only patients in the whole fucking hospital. So so I guess that one of them has, I think he has fibromyalgia or something, or
No,
COPD.
it wasn't fibromyalgia. It
He
was
had something
COPD, I
that
think.
was threatening his life. And that's really the part that matters here.
something mitosis, maybe?
It was either that or COPD.
Either way, he was going to die within an hour if he didn't have a certain surgery.
Yeah, correct. So the wife of the husband was pleading for them to do an operation, and Jerry O'Connor, being a douchebag doctor, says, of course we'll do it, and doesn't do it, and then basically lets him die.
And then he and the nurse dump the body in the swamp.
Correct, which is a hardcore hardcore swamp.
Yep.
That you
Oh yeah, we should probably mention that the backyard of the hospital is a swamp.
Yeah, literally.
And when we mean like an Alabama swamp, like you throw a body in there, it's gonna be gone within a couple of days because all the amoebas and shit.
You ever seen Hatchet? That.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I know it's not
He's
the
not
most popular
wrong.
slasher, but most people have seen the first one.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So Jerry O'Connell dumps the body, and then they said we're just gonna fuck the paperwork and say that we did the surgery and he checked himself out and then he just disappeared.
Yeah.
So then it fast forwards to 2016, where it catches up with Dean Munch, played by the lovely.
Jamie Lee Curtis. Wow, I blanked on her name. I'm like, I just fucking said it too.
Wow. Brandon is physically upset.
Are you a horror fan or not?
Yeah, but I like good horror movies. I'm sorry.
Jamie Lee Curtis was in Halloween.
Yeah, but one of the most overrated horror movies of all
She was
time.
in Halloween 2.
Yeah,
She was in
not
Prom
a good
Night.
movie. Wait, which one?
Prom Night.
Yeah, okay. I still haven't seen the original Prom Night.
She was in Terror Train
The fuck is that?
and Road Games, which I finally got a copy of that.
Haven't seen
sitting
that
on my
either.
shelf now.
Look, Jamie Lee Curtis's best movie, True Lies, hands down.
I don't know about that. I'm gonna have to go.
Fish Called Wanda's up there.
Or Trading Places.
Trading Places was good.
I can't believe we had this discussion while we were rewatching this. Picking our
I
favorite.
mean,
Jamie
of
Lee
course,
Curtis.
we have to mention Freaky Friday.
Oh, but of course, because if her playing fake guitar in the back while Lindsay
That
Lohan
was-
also plays fake guitar and fake sings on stage, there's nothing better in life.
Did anybody even watch that movie?
I did.
Of course you did.
Yeah, I did. I had a thing for Lindsay Lohan back in the day until I discovered the truth about her.
Do you want Zach to edit that part out for you?
No.
No, that's staying in there. Sarah, you know a little bit more about your boyfriend. I hope you're happy.
Dude, and then I went on to Emma Watson like every other basic fucking bro at that time.
Emma
Hey,
Watson.
hey, just because you like Emma Watson doesn't mean you're basic.
Emma Watson.
Hermione.
Harry Potter.
Hermione. Oh, her. Okay.
Yeah, she's pretty great. Anyway, so we catch up with Dean Munch, who is now purchased this hospital that has now been defunct, and her idea is to turn it into the Cure Institute, where they will go ahead and cure what normal hospitals would say are incurable diseases. There's multiple different. We'll get into. I have all the different patients that become cannon fodder after the fact.
You really took your note taking seriously.
I did. I want because we tried a little.
Yeah, we tried. This is our second attempt at recording this episode of this podcast, and we started watching season 2 literally right after we finished recording our podcast about season 1, and that was back in late August, early September.
Yeah, right around there.
And we just finished the season only a couple days ago. Yeah. So we watched this over the course of at least 2 or 3 months.
I would say probably 3.
Yeah.
And that was with a lot of shit in between.
Yeah,
because,
we had,
episode 4 and all that. The Simpsons podcast.
Yeah, we had a lot of stuff get in our way, so it took us a long time to get through this season. So
we watched one half at one point, the last half at another point.
Yeah, and that first half was spread out quite a bit, and then we just binged the last 4 episodes all at once.
Which is crazy, because there's only 10 fucking episodes in the whole season.
Yeah, I was going to say, it felt like what we watched, doing a review for this, took us like weeks to do when we actually did it.
It's less episodes than season 1, but it took us longer to watch this season than it took us to watch season 1.
Which is hilarious.
Yeah. And so, we discovered it's a lot harder to remember the details of the beginning than we thought. So,
I really honestly thought that I was gonna snap right into it, and normally that happens for me. I have a pretty damn good memory, but it was not happening at all.
Again, we just
so
had too
we went
much
back
in
and rewatched the first couple episodes as a refresher. So.
It helped. It helped a lot.
And Mark took very diligent notes.
Not too bad for me, which is kind of crazy. So anyway, Dee Munch goes ahead and opens up this brand new hospital, and she has 2 doctors on staff, played wonderfully by Mr. John Stamos. Who's a very pretty doctor. And then also somebody that I used to despise and now actually kind of like. Taylor Lautner plays the other doctor in there, and he's great in the show. The funny thing is, I just figured out he wasn't bad. It was just Twilight that was bad. It just was a terrible movie, and I feel fucking disgusted that I got dragged to it. So anyway,
more than one. Again, if you do more than one, that's your own damn fault. If you do one, it's like, okay, what is this movie? Let's see.
Zach, we are not here to talk about Twilight.
Fair enough. Continue on.
It's already been bitched about for better half of a decade.
Mark, we're not here to talk about Twilight.
I know. I'm moving on. Relax. I'm gonna get there. So they have the 2 doctors that are there, and Dee Munch is just trying to move on, start a new.
But those 2 doctors have their own little quirks as well.
Very, very interesting ones.
John Stamos, his backstory is he lost his hand during a Super Bowl party accident while he was hanging out with his friends from Harvard. By the way, that's the school he went to, Harvard.
Yeah.
He will not let you forget it. That is his password. He has a tattoo on his shoulder, and he has a class ring, and he reminds you every 2 seconds.
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure there's a reference to that every damn episode, but it just took us forever to realize that. It's like, wait, holy shit, they've been doing this since the beginning of the season.
And I just love it too. And he's like, I had a Super Bowl accident, and also Zayday is in the season, but we'll get to that in a second.
So he lost. So John Stamos loses his hand. They find a hand donor, and they actually gave him the hand of a serial killer.
He was a very famous squash player.
Yes, squash player that killed like 200 people.
So he killed every single one of his opponents because they couldn't win, and he thought that if you lost at the game, you were disrespecting the game, which in turn meant you were disrespecting him, so he would just kill you. I respect that, by the way.
My question is, what would happen if he lost?
He'd kill himself.
That is a very interesting question that I did not consider.
I'm pretty sure he would kill himself.
I was laughing too hard about the fact that how he found everybody was Craigslist ads, and that's how the cops eventually arrested him. It's because they eventually found the Craigslist ads and then tracked him down into his house. It wasn't really that hard.
Look, people, don't trust Craigslist ads. There's probably serial killers on the other end. Serial killers, don't use Craigslist ads. You'll get traced.
Yeah, don't do that.
Moral of the story: don't use Craigslist ads.
Mm-hmm. Do what everybody does. Put your ads on Twitter. Anyway,
Who the fuck does that? I don't even know.
so which I love that the whole joke though. I lost my hand in the Super Bowl, and Zayda's like, "You're in the Super Bowl?" He's like, "I'm sorry, Super Bowl party." And actually I like the whole the scene is actually pretty good. He's hosting a party for a bunch of his friends, and I guess he had surgery the next day, so he washed his dishes to make himself feel better, and he dropped his class ring, and of course you can't lose that because where's the proof that he went to Harvard besides his degree and his fucking tattoo on his shoulder blade? So he tries to reach down into the actual garbage disposal to get his ring. The power is out, and one of his dumbass friends was clicking switches.
Yep.
And when the power eventually...
Unknowingly flipping on the garbage disposal,
Correct.
but because the power's out, it doesn't turn on.
Correct. And then, unfortunately, when the power goes on, the garbage disposal does go on, and then tears his hand to fucking shreds.
There's one thing I want to point out about that scene. That house looks like the house used in every goddamn Super Bowl commercial.
I know, right?
I was looking at that. I'm like, did they just were they shooting a Super Bowl commercial and just in the background it's just like, yo, John, get over here. We're filming this now.
And ironically enough, John Stamos is the only person that looks out of place in that scenario. But anyway, and then also, Taylor Lautner has his own little, packadiddle, idiosyncrasy. I think that's how you said that word. Brandon has a very confused face and slightly disgusted as well.
Either way, he said peckadiddle.
So Taylor Lautner was at a frat party. You find out a little bit later, and he get super wasted, and his buddies told him to not fall asleep on his back because he could throw up and then choke on his vomit in his sleep. It happens a lot, unfortunately. And he went and did that anyway, and then woke up, and then he figured out that he's dead, I guess. Which is weird. He thinks he's dead. His temperature was at like 61 degrees.
It was like 62 or 63 as opposed to a healthy 98.6.
Correct. Or, dogs don't bark at him. I was almost half expecting him to make that Simpsons joke when Bart sells his soul to the devil, and the motion sensors don't capture him when he walks through. I was like, that would have been great.
Yeah. Usually it's my job to do the Simpsons references, but let's move on.
Fair enough. But yeah, it's so they come in. I think Dean Munch realizes that she needs some help to do that. So it turns out that Zayday, from season 1, of course, is trained to be a medical student.
Yep.
So
she's going through med school,
Mm-hmm.
and Jamie Lee Curtis offers to pay her way through if she works for her.
Fair enough. And then of course, Zayday, being the intrepid spirit of feminism, says we need more women out here. And Dean Munch is like, you're exactly right. And of course, she invites the worst possible females that you can have in that kind of setting. The Chanels. Chanel number 1, Chanel number 3, and number 5 all come to work as medical students, even though they've never done anything medical oriented whatsoever. So, and then it turns out that they...
they had their own jobs before that. So it's their backstory before the season starts is, of course, they went to the insane asylum at the end of season 1, but they were released because Denise Hempfield gets what kind of confession out of Hester that she was the real murderer of season 1.
And Hester doesn't know what Double Jeopardy is. It was Double Jeopardy. It's like, not for you. You were never tried. But it was Double Jeopardy for somebody. I was like, that's not how fucking Double Jeopardy works.
It really isn't.
And you would know among all of us exactly what the fuck Double Jeopardy is. And of course, and then also, like Brandon was saying, Denise Hempfield did come back, which is super awesome because she's one of my favorite characters.
Yeah.
She's an amazing character.
Oh man.
But
fucking
yeah, so Chanel number 5, she gets a job as the Chanels, they're out of work, families have disowned them and everything, they have no money, so they all get jobs and live in this sort of crappy house. Chanel number 5 works as a receptionist at a dentist office and is very overworked or just can't handle the workload of answering phones. Chanel number 3 becomes a janitor at a sperm clinic.
And she is very excited about it.
And then Chanel herself becomes a, what do you call it, a
Phlebotomist.
Yeah, phlebotomist. And she discovers she really likes blood.
Look, once you go blood, you never go back.
And Zach immediately fell in love with her in that moment, but only in that moment because she's awful. She's absolutely terrible. But
Look, when the blood's flowing, that's all that matters.
all right. And once again, we've made Brandon question his life choices. It's always a good podcast when Brandon has to question his life choices.
Indeed, it is.
So anyway, so they all get a job at the hospital. And their first patient is really really interesting. She has the Wolfman's disease, where you have hair literally all over your body.
Yep.
And
Played by Cecily Strong of Saturday Night Live fame.
Oh, I did not know that. Oh, that's cool.
It has been such a long time since I've watched Saturday Night Live.
I didn't know you can win it, but okay.
You can if you try, Mark. You just need to try.
I don't want to. Anyway, so they go ahead and try to counsel her and try to get more things, and then we get introduced to another interesting character who is the motivational person for the hospital.
The candy striper.
Yeah, is that the position or the person's name?
His name starts with a D.
Yeah, what was his name? The guy who does all of the motivation.
Are we talking about the same person?
The one who goes around with the
The
cart.
big guy with the cart
guy.
of candy, super happy, go lucky.
Chamberlain.
Chamberlain.
That's
Thank
it.
you.
Wow,
you.
why the fuck did I think it started with a D?
So Chamberlain is the
The candy striper.
okay. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that was
Seriously?
Yeah.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Well,
I
so-
thought it was just an actual a made up fucking
No.
thing. Okay.
Okay, so we were talking about the same person.
Yes.
You guys just don't know terminology
I do not.
Or history.
What are words?
or anything.
The
Keep going.
well,
This
thanks.
is amusing to me.
Thanks, Dick. Anyway, so they go ahead and they through investigation they figure out a cure for her, which is great. And then we get introduced to our killer of it, which is
The Green Meanie,
the Green Meanie,
who is wearing the same costume that Jerry O'Connell was wearing at the beginning of the show.
Yep. Chanel number 5 puts her in a locked tub so they can soak together, and then Chanel number 5 also locks herself in the same fucking tub. And then the Green Meanie chops the one lady's heads off. And then thus we kick off a barrage of killing of almost all the patients that come through there.
Yep.
That's an understatement.
So as the season goes on, as Mark said, it's for the first roughly half of the season, give or take, it's pretty much they get a incurable disease, they cure it, but then the Green Meanie kills their patient, and they're trying to keep it under wraps by throwing all the bodies in the swamp.
Which, that's really interesting. Okay, so that's another good point about this. So Zach and I were having a discussion the other day when we were recapping this, and we were talking about, and then you kind of joined in a little bit after the fact, which was, what is the difference between the first half of this season and the second half? And I think that's a huge thing, is that the formula changed up a little bit in that regard.
It's not so much the formula, but the style, and
the rinse, wash, and repeat of killing the patients.
So
it
I
didn't really happen
would
as
draw
much.
the line at, so in episode 2, Chad Radwell comes back. He proposes, he has a rivalry with John Stamos that ends with Chad proposing to Chanel, but unfortunately Chad gets murdered.
Yeah, and that also changed. And then Chad's re-entrance into the show was interesting. He
Yep,
dressed
there's
up
a very great shower scene with him and John Stamos.
I was going to get to that in a second. But he dresses up as the Red Devil and scares the shit out of Chanel again.
Yep.
Which is pretty great, actually. He comes there to pass over his friend, who's apparently screams at everything. And that's the reason why he was there in the first
He had
place.
some sort of French disease that essentially the slightest or just any sort of sound would make you just like
Any
jump out of your
any
skin.
kind of even the slightest stimulation.
Stimulation. There you go.
But yeah, so after Chad dies, so it's like there's before Chad's death and after Chad's death.
Yeah,
And
I'll
it's
give
like
you that.
before Chad is killed off, the second season is pretty much in line with the tone of the first season, where it's ridiculous, but it's still in a realm of plausibility. It still takes place in somewhat of the real world, whereas in the second half of the season, it just full out embraces the wackiness of the situation. Like they bring on a whole bunch of new Chanels, and that really just shows how much of in their own world these characters really are.
Well, you know what the funny thing is, and I was talking about Zach about this, but I'll bring it up now. I actually think that they got them being even more in the pocket of of their own zaniness, actually made into and crafted into a better story. Like I think I was more invested in the story once the second half after Chad got axed. Like it felt a lot more like the quality of the story of the first one. There was the mystery became interesting at
Yep.
that point. And that was it. And I think that's what the big line for me between the first half of it and the second half of it is like I became more invested in the story once Chad came around. Once Chad died, I think I became more invested in what was going on story wise, and I think that there was a little bit too much. Like my one criticism of the season 2 was I think they were leaning a little too hard into just the characterizations and the characters, and their own little things more than the actual story. And yeah, they did get way fucking zanier and way more out there and way more in their world. But the funny thing is, once they turn in on themselves and they got more in the pocket, I became more interested.
Yeah.
I got more involved in the mystery of what was going on.
And I think that zaniness is also what saves it from feeling like just a repeat of season 1, but in a hospital.
True. So I'm not gonna not fucking talk about what goes on between Chad and fucking John Stamos. I think that is the most comedic homoerotic shit I've ever seen since probably the volleyball scene in Top Gun. So Chad
Really?
It's pretty yeah.
Zach, just leave him alone.
Okay.
So and Zach and I for some reason find it fucking hilarious. So Chad sneaks in to the employee
Shower.
the employee shower where John Stamos is in and starts showering. And John Stamos is like, "What the fuck, man? This is an employee." He's like, "I'm like, what are you doing in here?" He's like, "Showering." And then he begins to have a conversation about how he's going to win over Chanel, and he goes inside of John Stamos's private shower.
What makes it funny is they're continuously opening and closing the shower.
Oh my god, that's
curtains.
fucking hilarious.
So okay, they're having this really hardcore back and forth conversation about Chanel and how manly they are and everything like that. But again, as they're doing this, you have Chad just bouncing from shower to shower. Like he goes to the
Well,
left
it's
shower
also
first, then
literally-
he goes to the right shower, and then he's also closing the
Yeah, it's
curtain.
literally before and after each point they make. One of them is either opening or closing a shower curtain. So you continuously
Yeah.
hear that sound. No matter how we describe it, there's nothing like actually witnessing it for
it's-
yourself.
Look,
We
let's
cannot
just
do
say
it justice.
two grown men end up in a shower together, and it is fucking hilarious.
In between our own laughter, we just couldn't fucking believe how it was even possible for them to film this, because it must have took 20, 30 takes to get through it, because there's no way that these actors didn't waste 10 takes just laughing,
Yeah.
and bursting into laughter just dealing with that.
That or the crew.
Oh my god, the crew just fucking die, like, because I
Well,
know
film crews are humorless, so
well, it depends.
I was gonna say, yeah, that depends.
It very much depends. I mean, but
Especially if you have the cast in the background, they're fucking giggling like a bunch of schoolgirls.
so I know that John Stamos would definitely keep to the text for the most part, but the guy who plays Chad, I know, would probably rattle off all kinds of shit, all kinds of zingers, and stuff that even like the crew weren't even expecting. Like the script, he's following the script, and Chad goes off on some other fucking wind, and then they literally end the scene like really close, and he's like, "I think our winner's
Is
just
there a
touched."
Blu-ray of these seasons?
Stand by.
There has to be
'Cause I was gonna
bloopers
say,
on there.
I would love to see a commentary of this because I'd love to know what happened behind the scenes on that section.
The
I imagine it has to be like the funniest, like, just part of shooting that show.
Dude, just some of the fucking outlandish shit that Chad's is like,
There's
yeah.
a DVD of season 1.
What about season 2?
There is a DVD of season 1.
No, that sucks.
God damn it!
The just fucking Chad, just like every second. He's like,
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, it's pretty interestingly homoerotic for us to be sitting in here talking about Chanel's box right now. Like, Jesus Christ.
There was one point where John Stamos was just like, I don't think I could get any more homosexual or something. It's just like, no shit.
He's like, I don't think that's possible. He's like, I think our wiener's just touched. And this happens twice. This literally happens.
Chad literally grabs his hand and pulls him in up close, gives him that stare of intensity, and I think our wiener's just touched. Just like, Jesus Christ.
Dude, and there's one, I think there's a couple episodes later where fucking John Staples is in there showering again, and he walks out, and fucking Chad's just sitting there with a fucking manila folder,
Just
airing out his
box.
junk. Airing out his junk. John Staples like, what the fuck are you doing? And he's like, just airing out my junk. Gotta keep it fresh for Chanel. Yes, that was the excuse of the reason why he was in there in the first place. He's like, yeah, I like to shower like 3 times a day. You never know when spontaneous sex is gonna happen. Jesus Christ, Chad. Chad is still an amazing character, and you know what? And they use Chad the perfect amount of time. They don't overdo the Chad meter. Like it's great.
Yeah, he really has his 2 episodes, dies in the second one. Then you have a couple flashbacks with him.
Yeah, then them talking to
Yeah,
him.
particularly with like his and Denise's role play sessions.
Oh my
Those
They
were
did
hilarious.
Brokeback
God.
Mountain and American Beauty.
No, they did one more as well. They did a total of 3. I just can't remember for the life of me what the third one was.
Yeah, I can't remember what the third one was either.
Either way, him and Denise Hetfield's like back and forth, like the few times it happened, like at the end of season 1, it was fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
So later on,
I like how at the wedding, John Stamos is of course like mad at that Chad got Chanel, but Denise is mad that Chanel got Chad.
oh my god, everyone is fucking everyone on this show.
Just like a real hospital show.
pretty much. And that's kind of the point. So I know.
Zach, did you seriously just get that?
Well, here's the thing. I don't watch hospital shows.
But you should know the stereotype.
I've never seen a hospital show.
He's completely inept to understand that. He's not a big television person either. So
He's sheltered. Let's move on.
Yeah, fair enough. I know that you said you had a funny story though about Jamie Lee Curtis with how she was able to not.
Yeah, so
laugh.
I don't know if this was for the second season or both seasons or just the first season, but I did read that she would have a thumbtack in like the palm of her hand and push it into her palm to keep herself from laughing during takes.
Oh my god, there's so much funny shit that happens in the show.
It's a smart move, though.
No, it's 100%
Yeah.
totally smart. So and then you get Denise Hempsfield does come back when the murders start to happen again. So you had a couple. So as the plot progresses, several of the patients get killed. I think the next one they have was a completely pimpled up guy or warded up guy.
And Chanel number 5 takes a liking to him, and they sort of become a couple, but he gets axed.
Or lasered.
Lasered.
I was going to say, yeah, he got lasered in half, essentially.
Which I found, the funny thing is, the thing I caught this next time was he's actually, he's from the cast of Arrow. He played, the Arrow's sister's boyfriend on the show. He had a pretty main part on it, and it's funny that like they showed the picture of him without the warts, and and he's obviously a very attractive guy, and I found it hilarious. I was like, wait a minute, that's actually him under all that makeup, which I found really really funny. It's fun to to see people from different. I don't know. I watch a lot of TV, so it's fun to see people from different shows. So the plot progresses, and then the cool part of it is, and the one part I forgot of the plot of them. It's all exposition for sure, but the part I forgot about in the first half of the season was them all going back to going to go visit that nurse that was actually there that night. The only surviving member is a short little Asian nurse that it started a new, I guess, lotion empire.
Yeah, well, what was so the beginning of the show, the backstory takes place on Halloween 1985, but then a year later, Halloween 1986, there's a huge mass killing at the hospital. Everybody dies except for this one nurse. And so the hospital basically pays him $5 million in hush money, which he turns into a whole moisturizer empire.
Which it turns out that he's actually just taking another moisturizer from
And repackaging
and
it.
repackaging it, which was great. The
Because you could do that.
I mean, yeah, probably.
Why haven't we done that?
I don't know. So they figure out that everybody died, and then obviously they completely covered it up. And then Dean Munch did know about it. I guess she just let it go for whatever reason.
And the nurse kind of has a feeling of who did it, because he mentions that the head nurse was nervous about it being Halloween, and a year before some guy died that they just let die. And of course he had a pregnant wife as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then they figure out that the killer in present day is most likely their child, which would make them around 30 years old at that point.
Okay, fair enough. And then I know that in the one character I forgot to mention because you were talking about head nurses, Kirstie Alley plays the head nurse who's addicted to Vicodin, I'm assuming. Some kind of pain medication.
And she really has it out for the Chanels. And for the first few episodes, you don't know why.
Spoiler alert.
Until she finally goes into her backstory, and it turns out that her sister was the maid from season 1 who got her face burned off in the fry oil.
Yeah.
And
So
then,
she's seeking revenge on the Chanels.
Revenge.
which makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
So and then you also find out why there's something more important to the plot as well. She also finds out Dean Munch's secret. Dean Munch is dying, and she doesn't know quite why. They find out like she may have this one disease from eating, being a cannibalist, called Kuru.
Yep.
And there's no cure for it. She's slowly dying, so they're trying to find a cure. And that's the reason why she actually ended up getting the hospital. Which is spoiler alert. It actually turns out that she's not Kuru. She's just dehydrated because all she drinks is fucking whiskey, scotch, including brushing her teeth with scotch, which is fucking disgusting.
That's hilarious.
You
want to know what is disgusting? Brushing your fucking teeth with mayonnaise, you goddamn monster.
He is literally never gonna let that go.
Never.
Usually it's my job to bring up the Simpsons references.
You're losing out, brother. You're 2 for 0 right now, champ. It must be a slow day for you, sir. So then they go ahead and move along. I think Zayday and Chamberlain start to investigate and start to get more into like the backstory, and then kind of develop a little bit of a relationship, which does lead. And I actually really like Chamberlain as a character. There's several characters that I really like in this. Like,
Chamberlain is like one of the few characters in the show who's just like actually a very good person.
yeah,
If not the only one.
Yeah, like he has no bad side to him. I would say the closest second is Zayday.
Yeah.
and
she's actually pretty close. Like she's actually a really good person too.
I think Zayday is normal. She has her ups and her downs. Like he's like the exact opposite of the Chanels.
He is like the happy-go-lucky, good guy, nice all around. Just like you need more of him in the world.
Yeah, you really do, and less of the Chanels.
But unfortunately, he gets killed as well.
He does, and then which really sucked.
Did Zayday ever get any actual closure on that?
No.
No.
Yeah.
But
we'll get into that later.
I think there's a couple of things that were not really hammered out or ever explained later on. Which is I'm not going to nitpick on that. So they go through the progression of the story, they had more of an interesting patients. They had the one guy with all the warts. They had one lady who couldn't stop orgasming, who
Played
gets
by
killed,
Sherry O'Terry.
which is awesome. It's always really nice to see her. And she gets killed in broad fucking daylight. They literally, the killer throws a sickle at her, and chops her head off. Right, in front
Throws
of-
it from across the hall sideways and decapitates her.
Dude, it's like
Do you understand the force you would need to throw that thing to
pretty cool.
do that?
It was like wanted
And
level.
after
like,
that,
worth of
it's,
shit.
they decide they need to bring in Hester, who's kind of the Hannibal Lecter of the series now.
And then they do a whole parody of Hannibal Lecter, which is hilarious. And you need to be a fan of it to understand some of the references.
Yeah.
But if you do, they're fucking great. The whole thing with the frosting being thrown at Chanel, and then Chanel number 3 runs out and tries to eat it, which is fucking great.
You were the one who caught that. That just flew right over my fucking head.
Oh man.
I try not to think about it.
Well, it's one of those things. And then Hester, who's completely insane.
And beautiful.
And I know you got the hots. I mean, she is pretty hot, so there is that to be said. But I
Crazy, hot. Oh, yeah.
yeah, I don't want any part of that kind of the crazy hot scale is way off of fucking balance on that one, bro.
You know what? Worth it.
It's way the fuck off. Anyway, so Hester claims that she knows exactly who the killer is, but she's like, I want to get out, and I also want these discontinued beauty products that is like these been discontinued for like 10 years. There's no way we can find it. And then of course after the second visit, Jamie Lee Curtis. Did you find out if that movie came out in that same year?
Yeah, it was, so Hester's demands were a transfer to the hospital in a room with a view, because she just kept in this prison cell, just stone walls on all 4 sides. Well, 3 sides, the window is the 4th wall.
Yeah.
And Jamie Lee Curtis is just like, we're never going to transfer you to the hospital, but here you are, a room with a view, and she actually got a VHS copy of the movie called A Room with a View.
And I'm like, oh, that's funny. I laughed. But so again, though, the killings continue. Several other people get offed, so they eventually have to figure out that they have to like, all right, Hester, you can come out. And then Denise Henfield, I guess, gets permission from the FBI to release her, which I find hilarious. I find it hilarious that she's an FBI agent, first of all. But so they end up releasing her, and then the Chanels get into several antics, and then Hester very comfortably comes back into her fold of becoming one of the Chanels again.
Yep.
So, and she starts getting involved more and more in their lives. So, and then
And the season kind of goes on from there.
yeah. It really and it does. I mean, they did jam quite a bit in because
Yeah.
it is only 10 episodes. So.
And there are actually 3 killers in this season,
Correct.
and they actually reveal.
Well, technically 4, and technically 5. There's technically 5 different killers spanning over several different decades.
Yeah, but I'm talking about for the main mysteries.
Yeah, the main
There's
mysteries
3.
there are in fact 3.
And they actually revealed 2 of them pretty early on, and they reveal the third. Like, you head into the finale actually knowing who all the killers are, which I liked that they made that choice of having the story go beyond just the mystery.
But they did do that in season 1 though, like
Yeah.
where they did you didn't know who
They
several-
revealed some of them throughout the season, but they kept that final one for the finale. Whereas the finale of this season,
You did
you
know.
who all of them are. Going
Okay,
in.
yeah, sure.
Fair enough. And then it does turn out that, spoiler alert, I know I got to say it again, but it turns out that it's Kirstie Alley's character, and then it's also Taylor Lautner's character.
Which Taylor Lautner was the baby from 1985.
Correct. And then it's also
Grace's dad from
Grace's
season 1.
dad. Yep.
Because his daughter went crazy after the whole ordeal from season 1, so he wanted revenge on the Chanels.
I would say that's probably the only thing that not the only thing, but that's one of the big things I didn't like about the season is we didn't see her at all. Like, I would have liked to have had like something done with her character, not just like, I'm back and this is what happened.
And actually, I think that I have the same critique, but I have it for a different reason. I think that season 1, I was way more. Don't get me wrong, I was invested in the story, but I was way more invested in the story than the first season, just because Grace was an emotional center for the whole season. Like, she was a normal person thrusted into this crazy world of the Chanels and the Dickie Dollar Scholars and like all these fucking insane people, and she was the emotional center of the entire show. And when you remove that that kind of centered person, it was left up to the responsibility of Zayday, who really isn't a main, she was never established as a main character, so it's really hard to try to push her into that role, and your emotional center is gone. So, it just don't get me wrong, I loved the season, but that's the reason why I didn't love it as much as season 1, is because there wasn't really an emotional center there. Somebody for me to lean on to. You need a normal, like, I don't like, Chamberlain's like the only one I actually relate to.
I wonder if the actress just didn't want to come back, or if she had a scheduling conflict.
Maybe, I don't know what it was.
Because she was clearly the main character of season 1, so it is a little weird to basically get rid of your main character for season 2. So I am wondering if it was a scheduling conflict, or if she just didn't want to come back, or if there was,
Same.
or if it was always a legitimate story choice not to include her in season 2.
Honestly, I would have loved to have seen her come back and actually be a killer.
I mean, and actually, if and we'll get to my
maybe that's what they were saving for season 3.
That's what I thought was in the backseat of that car, and that would be the only person who would make sense.
That's the only person I could think of. So
Yeah, because they did say she was in the asylum now,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it's maybe that was their plan, to bring her back for season 3.
I mean,
which makes me even more mad that we don't have a season 3.
Yeah,
and I think
But we have 20 American Horror Story seasons.
the
25.
So, and I think that's a fault that a lot of shows go into, is that they give more of the story responsibility to side characters that steal the show and all the scenes that they're in. And I think that's the other big difference between what happens with season the first half of season 2 versus the second half of season 2. I think
because the first half they did try to make it
about the Chanels.
Yeah,
like,
but then the second half they fully embrace that this world belongs to the side characters now.
Yeah, correct. I mean, I think they tried to make the Chanels main characters, and they try to push this thing, and I'm like, we don't care about them. They're awful people. Like, they find them entertaining for sure, but when you're coming off like. Okay, so if it was...
They're not three-dimensional characters.
Correct. And also, too, if it was that way from the start, then yeah, I would have been bought in. The same way that Always Sunny in Philadelphia or Seinfeld is like that.
Yeah.
Like, those main characters were always terrible. Like, and you followed them through the journey. But the Chanels were always a secondary character, and you had Grace being the main person, and I think her presence was lifted. And the problem is they never handed over those reins to Zayday, and I think Zayday would have been fine to...
Yeah, they kind of played with that a little bit, but they never fully committed to it.
Correct.
Yeah, so here's the thing with Zayday. After the first killer is essentially revealed, it's what's his name? Dude from Twilight.
Taylor Lautner.
Taylor Lautner's character.
Yeah,
Dr.
Taylor Lautner is revealed.
Or Chamberlain?
No.
No.
Chamberlain is the candy guy.
It was Cass or Cassidy.
Yeah, Cassidy. Yeah,
Was it
yeah.
Cassidy? Either way.
Taylor Lautner. That's what matters.
Yeah, Twilight Wolf Boy is revealed to be the first killer. The baby who was born that day from the mother of the child and the thing. And after that, Zayday figures out, mother, I'm gonna go investigate, stir up a whole bunch of shit, and she gets captured.
Yeah.
Halfway through the season,
And they Silence of the Lambs her again.
Yeah.
Again.
And only this time she's there for literally the rest of the season and doesn't appear till the very end.
Yeah.
You know what's something funny though? I just thought of something else too, important that I think is a good split between why I think I like the second half more than I like the first half, even though I love parts of the first half. I think that an emotional center was created for it. It wasn't as strong as the first season, but when the Doctor and Chanel number 3 started.
5.
5, is that 5?
Yeah.
The Is it 5 or 3?
Well, which one are you?
They
Which,
started-
which doctor?
She started dating Taylor Lautner's character.
3.
That's 3. Yeah.
Oh, was it 3?
It was 3.
Oh, shit, I had it backwards.
That's Carrie Fisher's daughter. That starts dating. That became more of the emotional center, and I think that's where the story became more interesting for me, and it became more of a like, what the fuck's gonna happen? Who is Taylor Lautner actually gonna kill her at the end when this is all over? Or I think there was more of that, and I think that's the reason why I got more invested in the story, because there was something with an emotional center, and also too, I think Zayde and Chamberlain's relationship getting more and developed was getting more serious. And I
Really,
think-
the 3 main relationships all kind of filled their own different goals for the season. You had the weirdly emotional aspect of Chanel number 3 and Taylor Lautner.
Yeah.
You had the humor of Chanel and John Stamos.
And then also John
which-
Stamos with Dean Munch.
Yep, that whole love triangle. But I really liked just the age gap.
I was going to say, I don't know if that's a love triangle because you
Lust triangle. There you go.
No. You got Dean Munch, you got
Yes.
John Stamos,
Yes.
you got Chanel, you got
Yes.
Chad, you
Yes.
have other people.
And then you have
Denise.
Wes. And then you have Wes,
Wes.
who comes into the mix. So it's an octagon or
Wait.
some shit.
Wait. Chanel, John Stamos.
He's literally
Dean
doing trying to come up with a geographical.
Dean Munch, Wes, Denise. Am I missing anybody?
No, that's a hell of an octagon.
Octagon is 8 sides.
So it's a love. I don't know what the hell that is.
A
It's
parallelogram?
not a square. It's one more side, above a
Look,
square.
none of us passed math, okay? Clearly.
I don't know what the fuck that is.
Pentagon.
Oh, it's
the Pentagon.
It's a
Look at
love.
that.
It's a love pentagon. Jesus. I'm gonna write that down somewhere.
Fuck it, we'll call it an orgy.
Dude, I did not want to skip though that you were saying though about the age gap, because that fucking
Yeah.
scene was hilarious. Where John Stamos
it's-
comes home and it's all the 50s
Well,
shit.
Oh.
Yeah, because what it was John Stamos was definitely starting to feel the age gap between him and Chanel, and so she decided to try to let him know that she is committed to the relationship, that she was planning a whole dinner in his honor, and themed after all the stuff from his childhood. And no, it wasn't the 50s, it was the 40s.
Oh yeah.
I don't know why we keep saying the fucking 50s.
Dude, literally, they were all dressed up as the Andrews sisters, and then they were playing,
And then you had Chanel number 5 dressed up as
40s housewife.
no, it was
Rosie the
Animal
Riveter.
Animal Crackers in the soup.
No, Rosie the Riveter. She was dressed up as Rosie the Riveter.
no, it was
It's Rosie the Riveter.
no, that was Chanel number 3. I'm talking about Chanel number 5.
Yeah.
The tap dancing girl.
Oh,
Shirley Temple.
Shirley Temple. That was her.
What the fuck was the Animal Crackers in the soup? God damn it! Oh, Shirley Temple.
That was hilarious.
And we learned something about Shirley Temple, where it's at the end of the scene, Chanel number 5 just shouts, "When I grow up, I'm going to work for Congress."
And then
we're
we
just
all look at
"Is
each
that what
other.
Shirley Temple really did.
Did she do that?
And then,
Shit, she did.
Brandon was fact checking, and literally he paused it, and he's like, "Yep, yeah, that did happen." She was an ambassador for a bunch of different areas. I'm like, "Holy shit,
Hey, good for her.
that's fantastic!" Talking about having a separate.
Yeah. So how
Yeah,
that came
was
about
hilarious,
though
he was
is-
just like, "How old do you think I am? For me to be in the Greatest Generation, I would be 80." And she was just like, "In all honesty, I really don't know how old you
really
are."
hard to tell.
No. You want to know how she got there? Because she heard him talking about MASH,
Right.
which isn't even the right war.
Oh yeah.
Korean War.
It blows my mind. She knows all these great movie references and even some minor historical ones. How do you fuck that up so bad?
Yeah, I love it too. She's it's like the greatest TV show. It's like the greatest TV show ever is Boy Meets World. It's like, really? It's probably, although I do have to say though, it's probably the nicest thing Chanel's ever done though. I will.
That's actually a good point.
It was actually a really it was totally mishapped, but it was a completely nice gesture. And actually, I want to kind of add on what you're saying, but you're already kind of getting there. That's the distinction. The show remembered that you need to have a certain element within the show for it to work, and that is an emotional gravitas. You need to have centered. And in this case, is you had in the first season you had Grace, who was the entire emotional gravitas. And in this case, it actually split up into 3 different emotional gravitas. It was what was going on with Chanel number 3 and Taylor Lautner, Zayday and Chamberlain, and then also John Stamos's character and Chanel number 5. So I think that's where, and I'm saying this out loud because it's just now occurring to me. That's why I liked that was, and it was kind of weird because Zach and I were discussing this, and we're having a real hard time. And you had actually mentioned it to us, and then we started talking, and we're like, "There's something there. There's a reason why." It was like something in the air of why we enjoyed, the change, the drastic change between what was going on in the first half of the season and what was going on in the second half.
Because it really does feel like an entirely different show.
Yeah.
The I liked both the shows. I just became way more invested when there was actual emotional gravitas. And
I agree.
And they weren't leaning into just how wacky the Chanels are. And don't get me wrong, they're fucking wacky, and I enjoy watching them. But like, you needed an actual emotional attachment to make the thing fucking work. So, which I really appreciated. So. Overall it was pretty good. I wish that the first half of the season was a little bit stronger, but that was it.
I like to go into 2 of my favorite smaller moments of the second half of the season.
Okay.
And these are like 2 moments that it's been a few years in between the first time I watched season 2 and the second time I watched it, but these are 2 moments that have just always cracked me up for some reason. They're small, but they're funny. So towards the end of the season, Chamberlain gets the idea that the Green Meanies costume is a very specific type of fabric. So it's not just a costume you can just buy off the shelf. You would need it custom made. And so they start going to every fabric store and costume store in town, just asking the owners there, do you recognize this fabric? And then they finally find a guy who has actually made 3 of the costumes. And they do a really good job. It felt like Zodiac, that scene in Zodiac with the guy that voiced Roger Rabbit.
I said that out loud.
Yeah.
I'm like, are they really reenacting Zodiac over here?
Yeah. But he talks about the 3 times that he made the costume, and he mentions, I remember the first time I made this costume. They were all the same costume, just different sizes. The first time was in 1985. I remember because that was when I saw Karate Kid 2, and I got a handy in the theater. The 3rd time was only a few weeks ago, and I remember that because I went to Olive Garden that night, and I got a handy under the tablecloth. And then the 2nd time, I don't remember any handies with that.
There was no handies in that particular circumstance.
That moment was all right.
I
I don't
thought
think
it
it was
was
as
funny.
funny as you guys think it was, but it was all right.
It amused me.
That's fair.
It was his delivery that made it. Like, it wasn't the actual dialogue. It was the actor's delivery,
Yeah, the delivery
that made
was
it for
great.
me.
He didn't do anything special, but
And then the other moment that I really like was, so this is actually the episode that Brooke Shields guest starred
Yes,
in.
I forgot. So explain a little bit about that episode.
So Brooke Shields has one of those like Dr. Phil type shows. Her show is called Lovin' the D.
Zach and I both looked at each other and went, "Oh my god!"
I would say I'm surprised, but I'm not.
Anyway, so she's going to break new ground on her show. John Stamos' character she gets John Stamos' character to do the first ever live surgery on TV, and the Chanels are going to help him.
I just want to point out they're performing surgery on what is essentially Goro.
Yep. But anyway, the only problem is the Chanels aren't real medical students.
It wasn't that time. This time they're removing a tumor. The other time was in front of that guy who was doing the medical journal.
Oh
review.
yeah, my mistake. Yeah, this
but
was
that was another one of those patients.
Who they're operating on really doesn't matter for what I'm getting at.
Fair enough.
So, yeah, the problem is they're not real medical students, so they need to pass their MCATs, which is a test that people study for years upon
Absolute
years. And so, yeah, the surgery is happening the next day because the other doctor shows catch wind that this is happening, so they got to get theirs done first. So literally, they're taking the MCATs the night before the surgery, and they all pass. They get like one of them gets like 90 something percent, the other gets another 90 something percent, and Chanel number 5 gets 97%. Like she was like 3 questions away or something from like a perfect score. But it's revealed that Chanel and Chanel number 3 had earpieces, and John Stamos and Taylor Lautner were basically feeding them the answers during that whole 8-hour test.
But
So it's revealed, and Chanel number 5 had no idea that they were cheating, so she actually got a near perfect score on her own, and nobody cared. And that was just bugging her beyond all reason.
oh my god! And Zach and I were screaming at the TV because you have no self-respect. That's why no one gives a shit, because you're hanging out with awful human beings.
I kept screaming. I'm like, punch the bitch in the face.
They're like awful. All of them are just so terrible. The it was actually a funny episode because and then it turns out that Brooke Shields gets accidentally poisoned. It was supposed to be one of the Chanels that Kirstie Alley I believe
was trying to poison.
and then Brooke Shields ends up getting killed. So the Chanel ends up hosting the show. And that actually gets revealed later on after the situation is over, that they ended up she ends up getting her own show, Loving the Sea.
Yep.
Then we all made that noise, a yep. So I didn't want to finish up the plot because it was pretty good, how it all wrapped up for the most part. So Wes comes back, and then I think earlier on in the show, Kirstie Alley figures out that Taylor Lautner is the Green Meanie, and she basically says, "I want to become the Green Meanie as well." And then it's hinted at that there's another Green Meanie, because she asked him a very specific question: "Hey, did you kill this person?" And he's like, "No, I didn't kill that person." So Taylor Lautner, it's revealed that he's the baby that was born. His mother's basically been training him since birth to become a killer. If the hospital ever gets reopened, he has to go ahead and goes and kills everybody. Kirstie Alley becomes part of that Green Meanie crew, and then you figure out later on that Wes, Grace's father, is also the Green Meanie. They eventually have a Green Meanie summit hosted
moderated by Hester.
They all make arrangements on who's killed who, and they start tallying up points, and then they decide who's gonna kill who and who has dibs and everything else, which is a really creative and fun fucking scene. You also figure out too that the mother, who's the wife of them, had her brother-in-law or brother who was already a psychopath go and murder all the people back in 1980.
Yeah, he was the one that killed everybody in 86.
Yeah. So there technically were quite a few people that were the Green Meanie over the years. So and then Taylor Lautner ends up bringing Herb over to the house. The mom doesn't accept her, and says, hey, she's got to get killed. So that's a kind of a cool conflict that Taylor Lautner has to deal with. But eventually, Zayday figures it out through investigation with Chamberlain that hey, he is she's involved in this somehow, and then she ends up silencing lambing her, and then she disappears for fucking 3 episodes, which is such a waste.
Essentially, yeah, it's just like not even 3. I think it was like 4.
Jesus, really?
Like, it really feels like once the second half of the show begins, it's just like, bye, Zayday.
If this went
like,
on for
what?
If this went on for multiple seasons, that would have to be a thing. That would be a constant running joke that Zayday
ends up in a well
somewhere, or some deep hole somewhere.
At least in season 1, it was like for 2 episodes, and then she was back.
It was like an episode.
Yeah,
yeah. It was
and then she was
fast.
back as a character, and even then, she was
and
still
it was at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, but even while she was in that well, she was still, she still had shit to do.
Yeah.
In said episode, so it's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it was kind of a weird choice on their part. So they all go through the cycles of being a killer. And then Chamberlain eventually actually meets up with Wes, And of course, Wes ends up telling her, him everything, confessing essentially, and then he acts as Chamberlain, which really sucked because I really did like Chamberlain.
Yeah.
But I mean, like as soon as he was in there, I'm like, yeah, he's dead. It sucked. It's one of those things that like it's a negative byproduct of horror movies and horror shows. Eventually, sometimes you get characters that you really do like that end up dying.
I know, but I mean, I just wish he would have died in a cooler way. And that's same thing with Chad. Like every time Chad's on screen, it's amazing, but his death was so fucking boring that I was like, really?
Yeah,
that's how he died.
Yeah, that kind of does.
That's fucking annoying.
You know what? By the way, did we ever figure out who killed Chad?
It was Wes.
It was Wes? Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah. They said it during the summit when they were tallying up who already killed who.
And then I can't forget too that that one of the episodes Denise Henfield ends up channeling Chad, and he comes back to talk to Chanel from the grave, which is fucking great.
Denise also gets knifed.
Yeah,
at the Halloween party, so they have to cryogenically freeze her.
And then she's gone for most of the show, for most of the rest of the season as well.
Until the end of the season.
They Walt Disney her ass, until the last possible second.
I liked the Halloween party. Like that was maybe episode 4 of the season.
Yeah, that was a fun one.
And it was really fun. I liked some of the Halloween costumes.
And Chanel.
Turning
blue.
Turning blue, so she has to go smurf that. My favorite costume was John Stamos, who's just covered in blood stains. And Denise asks him, "What are you?" "I'm the script of Batman vs. Superman." "But you look like a bloody mess." "Exactly." And then you have Jamie Lee Curtis as Hamilton. And then the whole emergency of the night is, it was like a whole bunch of Hamiltons got poisoned.
Yep, and it turns out that they didn't get poisoned. They just had ayahuasca, which is hilarious. And then they go
Was
ahead.
it just me? It was quick, and I'm not exactly 100% sure. But did they have the actual actor from Hamilton?
Yes,
among
they
them?
did. Yes, they did. That was the guy. That was the guy, which was pretty cool. It was cool to see him. He's been in a few other things here and there. He was in an episode of How I Met Your Mother. He's been around for a while.
Yeah.
He was around.
I've still never seen Hamilton.
Never have I.
I always remember one person that I met a while back. She was bragging, "Oh yes, I paid $2,000 for my Broadway tickets for Hamilton." And I was just like, "Yeah,
you're
stupid. I paid $90 to see Evil Dead the musical, and that one had a splatter zone at least."
Does your musical have a splatter zone? Yeah, didn't think so. I can't. We'll get to the whole ending and how everything works out and finals out. But I cannot forget that after Chad dies, he leaves all of his fucking money to
Dean Munch.
Because it turns out that when he was about to marry Chanel, his entire family was flying over to stop him.
the wedding.
Oh my God.
And the plane crashes and kills them all. So all their fortune goes to Chad, but since Chad was dead, the fortune goes to whoever was in Chad's will.
And that's what was never worked out, that we never got an explanation of why he had all of his money sent over to Dean Munch. Then I don't think that ever
Maybe
got
she was the one he actually loved.
Maybe so. Even though she clearly
if we're going off of that logic, I feel like it would go to Denise.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I would have thought.
Then again, who updates their will on a very consistent day-to-day basis?
I feel like that's something he would do.
Maybe.
Yeah, who the hell knows?
Dude, he proposed to Chanel with a legal binding document.
Oh yeah, the proposal was no, he didn't even propose. He just asked her to read over the prenup or have a team of lawyers read
It's
it
like
over.
you're gonna want to hire a bunch of
hefty
lawyers.
Document. And then once you sign it, then I'll consider asking you to marry me.
It's just Chanel's like, this is the happiest day of my life.
No, you really should have a team of lawyers like this.
It was amazing. I love when they're channeling Chad and she's like, do you love Denise more than me? Yeah, of course I do. She's awesome. God, I fucking love Chad. He's amazing. That whole subplot comes out, and then also too, Hester is also trying to once again get with somebody that Chanel's with. So she tries to hit on the doctor, who she's convincing that he's actually a serial killer. which actually turns out to be something in the end. And she said, you should marry Dean Munch, who's already going to die, so that way when she does croak, you get all of her money, and then we can sneak off to Blood Island together. So they end up getting married, and then they of course figure out that Dean Munch is actually not dying. She's just dehydrated, which
Chanel number 5 is the one who figures it out.
which is hilarious.
There's something I want to point out about that marriage, though. Dean Munch has this strange obsession with Supreme Court Justice. I don't know the name of the guy, but it's like she really wanted him to be the guy that marries John Stamos and her.
I don't know why. It's just.
But
weird...
if anybody remembers, during season 1, when she's getting attacked by all the Red Devils or whatever,
It was 2 Red Devils
Yeah.
and then one who got a Supreme Court Justice mask because they
she's
didn't
like, Supreme Court Justice, whatever your name is. It's like, that is so out of left field. What?
Oh my god, it's so ridiculous.
Another reason I'm pissed off for not getting a season 3, because now I'm looking forward to the Supreme Court Justice joke. It is great.
Yeah.
It makes no sense, but I love it.
And then Dean Munch probably would have ended up buying the network, and then that's how she
I
would
could
have.
see
and
that.
that's how she would have gotten
Guess what,
it.
Chanel? I'm running your show now.
Yeah, that would be terrible. The and then have Zaydion and Chanel number 5 as experts, doctor experts, which would be great.
Yeah.
God, that
Who
sucks.
just constantly gets ignored.
Oh my god, that would be amazing.
I would just love to see Chanel number 5 punch Chanel in the face.
Oh my god, can
That
you
would
imagine
make
if
me
she
so happy.
finally fucking just stands up to her? That would be so fucking fulfilling.
Well, she was basically co-running the hospital at the very end with Zayday.
I know,
Yeah.
and season 3 would have been the one time for her to finally tell her to go fuck herself. That would have been amazing.
It would have been great.
The and Chanel would have been like, you finally passed the real test, having some self-respect. You can have your real name back now.
That would make me happy.
Oh man.
That she just goes, fuck you, I took it back years ago, bitch. It's like, damn!
Oh, that would have been awesome. Anyway, things that we're never gonna get. So,
Sadly.
Taylor Lautner and Kirstie Alley's character end up kind of teaming up together. They end up murdering Wes to kind of place the blame on him, that he is actually the only solo Green Meanie. And then it all, I think it all goes down in the end. Taylor Lautner decides that, hey, I'm not gonna kill her or anybody. I'm retired. I'm done. I'm not gonna fucking kill anybody. So, but Kirstie Alley is like, nope, I still want to murder everybody. So she essentially leads everybody down to the basement, and then locks them in a giant cage that Hester was in, who had since escaped. She literally, Philip Chanel number 3 was like, yeah, I saw her about 2 hours ago with a bunch of luggage, hailing a cab. I'm like, yep, she's gone. So they end up all getting locked in the cage, and while Kirstie Alley is basically develops a fertilizer bomb, and then goes ahead and tries to detonate it, and then Denise Hetfield wakes up, and then she deactivates the bomb, and they all chase Kirstie Alley outside to run after her. She throws a knife again with such amazing accuracy,
Yeah, no
wanted level of physics. You ever
These
seen that movie?
motherfuckers could, yeah.
Yeah, and they
was a
it's
fun
like
movie.
it's like that kind of shit, that kind of slow motion throw. Then Taylor Lautner ends up eating it. The mom ends up getting killed, and then they're chasing Kirstie Alley through the swamp, and then Kirstie
She
Alley,
gets caught in the swamp.
and then you like the quicksand, and everybody. Anybody, and then they all take a vote on saving her versus letting her
Nobody
die.
wants to, but then was it
Nobody.
Was it Jamie Lee Curtis or Zayday?
No,
Jamie
James
Lee
Lee Curtis
Curtis.
actually
Zayday
did.
Zayda's just
She's
like, oh, fuck that
damn my
bitch.
conscience, and she tries to save her. It's like she's already too stuck into the swamp water.
Yep,
It's like-
she's gone.
and they're just like, oh, we tried.
And then she died. And then everybody kind of settles into their final.
We have our epilogue. As we mentioned, Chanel gets the Love and the D show, which is now Love and the C. Chanel number 3 is her executive producer. Zayday and Chanel number 5 co-run the hospital after Jamie Lee Curtis sells it. John Stamos runs away with Hester.
to Blood Island, and
Blood
then
Island.
basically it hunts humans for fun.
Yep.
So that wealthy.
Why can't I meet a girl like that and run away to a place called Blood Island where I get to hunt humans?
Because that's not a thing. And you're
You
not,
don't know that.
It's not a thing.
you're not rich enough to know about those things. Anyway, and then Dean Munch kind of becomes a sex therapist.
Yep.
To help old ladies orgasm, as Chanel as Chanel likes to say. And then the show ends with Chanel number 1 getting inside her car
And getting scared by yet another Red Devil.
And it just ends, which fucking sucks. It sucks that was the last one, because that
Now-
would have been a hell of a thing to go into.
While you were sort of going through the very end of the climax of the season, I did a quick Google search, and apparently back in July of this year, this is from digitalspy.com. I'll just read you the article, but the headline is, American Horror Story boss teases Scream Queens revival. American Horror Story showrunner Ryan Murphy has teased he's working on a revival of the canceled Fox series Scream Queens. The horror comedy series, which is fronted by Emma Roberts and has also featured stars such as Jamie Lee Curtis, Ariana Grande, Billy Lord, and Nick Jonas, was dropped by the network in 2017 after just 2 seasons. However, the show has since gained a huge cult following, with fans calling for its revival. I'm glad my voice has been heard. Well, it seems they'll be getting their wish, as Murphy recently teased in an Instagram exchange that work is underway on a 3rd season of the show.
Nice.
When one fan commented on one of his posts, Scream Queen Season 3, Murphy replied, "Working on that." And so there's a picture of the exchange where there's somebody saying, "Renew Scream Queens," and then Ryan Murphy says, "Working on that." Back in February, Murphy teased the idea of a 3rd season after revealing he discussed the idea of stars Emma Roberts, Billy Lord, and Lea Michele. So many people recently have been asking me about rebooting or continuing Scream Queens. R.I.P. taken too soon, Ryan wrote on Instagram. Emma, Billy, Lea, and I have mused on it, but question, should it be a 6-episode limited, a catch-up movie? Who should I bring back? Would love your thoughts, so many questions. At the time, Fox claimed there were no plans to revive the show, but the network's CEO, Charlie Collier, insisted that we take Ryan Murphy seriously when he wants to build something. Unless Murphy is thinking of bringing the show to another network, it seems those plans may have changed. So hopefully we actually get some sort of closure on the series as a whole.
I would love, get one more season and do it right, close and end it, give it a proper ending. And then you can go back to doing American horror crap or whatever. I don't know. People like that show for some reason.
Yeah, people like it. I don't know. I would definitely like. There's a lot of things I would like to see. I would love to see Grace come back. And I imagine that's exactly who the fuck was in that car. And then I would love to see Chanel number 5 finally tell Chanel to fuck off. They finally get some self-respect and fucking tell her to fuck off. And then see where it goes from there. Maybe she'll remove.
What I would like to see is, because Chanel number 5 is doing so well at the end of season 2, I'd love her to be just at the top of her game at season 3,
and then
but Chanel just slowly just breaks her back down.
That's most likely what will happen.
I just want to see this. I just want to see Chanel die violently.
I think that would probably.
I don't know. I think this is the kind of show where Chanel will just always somehow survive.
Yes, somehow.
Now let's get Shudder to run the show. Make it as violent as you possibly can, and just have a good time.
That would be interesting to have Shudder take it over. That would be very interesting. The Ryan Murphy would have to be at the helm. No, I wouldn't trust anybody else with this fucking show. That's his baby, and he should be the only one who's in charge of it. As far as I'm concerned, I think he's developed a great thing. I mean, he already had me because I love satire and parodies and things of that nature, and they did a damn good job with both of these seasons. Obviously, I like the first one a lot more than I like the second one, but that really isn't. It's like the difference between an A plus and an A minus. Like it's not much.
To me, it's like an A plus and an A.
Okay, I mean, there really isn't that that much of a difference. They're both great pieces of entertainment. And then the only thing I forgot is that they eventually and I don't know if I forgot you mentioned it, but eventually the patients that are kept on dying and everything else, they ended up converting them all to different Chanels. like one of them like Chanel number 16, and like
Yep.
one of them 20 or some shit. They all eventually become Chanel's, which is hilarious. And they do get like one gay guy, and he ends up getting. Doesn't he end up
He
getting
gets killed off like right away.
Yeah.
and he writes Chanel fan fiction, which is
weird.
That's right. I forgot about that. That's how they found him. He ended up stalking her on Instagram. About fan fiction, which is hilarious.
Would constantly send it to him and everything.
Yeah,
It's just
I like
oh my
how the
God.
one like really tall Chanel that they get, she's talking to her mom on the phone and it's like, yeah, I just came here as a patient, but then they hired me right on the spot, and I'm also a Chanel. Yeah, I didn't know what that meant either, but I think it just means you get to be a bitch all the time.
That's like the tagline of the show right there. It's definitely. I think I want to do. We kind of talked about our funniest moments, but I kind of want to go around in case there's anything that you guys missed for like funniest moments, and then I also want to do favorite kill, as well. I think that's a good one for this. So, was there any funny moments, Brendan, that you forgot about?
And I already touched on the ones I wanted to make sure I touch. Are we talking about the season or the series as a whole?
No. This
Season.
this season.
Just the season. Yeah, I touched on the two that I wanted to touch on, and then favorite kill. Circle back to me on that one.
Fair enough. The one that I forgot, that was when Chanel number 5 is talking to the werewolf lady, the one with all the hair, and she's like, when I need to throw up and everything else, I need to like think of something horrifying, like and now I think of like the bathroom drain. Like, can I imagine your bathroom drain? She's like, it's like, yep, just thought of it. Just and then Chamberlain trying to give her a fucking lollipop was amazing. And a bunch of like the shit that Chamberlain said was great, and also I think we catch like a couple of like the one-liners that that he had, like his password being Harvard and shit like that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we caught a few of those like
I went to
one-line-
Harvard. They're all just like, are you fucking kidding me?
and then Chanel fucking being on Instagram while they're banging was hilarious. And then she like put in her headphones to listen to Spotify.
She is such a dead fuck.
I think Wes getting deep fried was pretty cool.
That was
yeah.
boring.
I like that. What was one of your favorite kills? Or if
I was
you
gonna
missed,
say the problem was the kills are boring. Yeah, it's a horror.
I wouldn't say they were
thriller
boring, but they were just the basic knife.
Yeah,
So I think I know what my favorite one is.
it's
That
like
was-
at the very least the show is funny, but the kills, they're never anything like great or visually great either. That's would be my biggest pet peeve with the show. It's like, give me some good fucking kills. You have these cool costumes. Do something cool with them. The Green Meanie. Melt a motherfucker, for crying out loud.
I liked when the Wes Green Meanie was trying to hang the tall Chanel.
that was pretty great.
Everyone was like, ooh, he just barely had enough rope to do this.
I didn't think he was going to be able to.
Yeah,
I thought she was just going to be like, are you fucking stupid? Which would have been great.
I did like the just because it was so ridiculous. I did love the orgasm lady getting killed with the sickle from
broad
like
daylight?
in broad daylight.
All the way across the hall with a fucking sickle.
And then literally get the POV shot of Zayde and Chamberlain watching her head go all over the place,
Spin.
which is I was like, that's great.
The amount of force you would have to throw that. Look.
Oh, dude, fuck physics. Seriously,
He could punch through steel at that point.
yeah, dude, like fuck physics for real, dude. It's ridiculous.
God.
That
That thing had to cleave through bone, flesh, and all that from at least a distance of like 20 feet.
Yep. Yeah. Well, that's definitely it.
At a fucking curve, too.
Were there any jokes that you really liked that we didn't cover?
Oh, no, we covered all my shit.
Of course, Chad and John Stamos in the fucking shower. It's great. And then also them talking right before they got married was fucking hilarious. But yeah, overall this is really, really good, man. I mean, thank you so much for introducing the show to us. It was a good recommendation. I hope that we're in like another year or so, we're doing a review of season 3.
Yeah.
That's
I would
definitely.
say realistically, probably more like 2
Yeah,
years.
with all
2
the
years.
COVID stuff happening,
Yeah.
that's causing a lot
If
of
it
delays.
does happen, it'll be like
but
2 years.
I'm
from now.
hoping the talks. I'll be happy if in a year we at least have an official announcement. I'll
That'd
be
be
happy
cool.
with that.
I will be happy when we get a trailer. Because shit gets announced all the time.
When you have a
doesn't mean
but still,
shit.
it's until it's announced. You can't get a trailer until it's announced.
It's
So
true.
it's-
It-
there's there are
I've seen
steps to
that-
be taken, and to go from Fox saying we have no plans to do it to them saying okay we're doing it, that is a huge.
That's a huge step.
Again, I've seen the announcements are a dime a dozen. Once a
No,
trailer,
I understand that,
Yeah.
but in our business, it is a huge step.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. That is true. So it's definitely a milestone. But I am with Zach. If I had to pick the value of one of the milestones,
Yeah.
I'm gonna pick a trailer over announcement. But that's just me. The
Or a behind the scenes set photo,
Oh,
because that
that's-
at least means they're filming.
yeah, that is true. That is true. The so yeah, I hope in another 2 years and everything else we're sitting here and we're or maybe we won't be sitting here. We'll be sitting elsewhere. But we'll definitely have a review up of this show. This is
Blood Island.
the Blood Island. Yes, as long as we go back to Blood. I mean, they could do that too. They can go back. They can go to Blood Island. They don't have to do it in the film studio. That would be great too. So, but yeah, it was great. I really enjoyed it. I did not enjoy season 2 as much as season 1. But that again, that's the difference between an A+ and an A-. Really, was not that far off with how much I appreciated this, show overall. So I think we can wrap up and go to final thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good show.
I think overall, like I said, completely awesome show. Highly, highly recommend it. It's on Hulu. If you saw this, go watch it. It's very short. It's 12 episodes for the first season and then 10 for the second. I believe that's correct.
It's like 12 or 13 for the first. Like there's like the first 2 episodes are combined for the first season, so
Okay.
episode guide's a little weird for that. But yeah, 10 episodes for the second.
Okay, yeah, so it really isn't that much of an investment of time, and it's damn sure worth it. So I highly recommend it. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of great moments. It has really good story elements. Like I said, season 2, didn't have quite as good of a story until the second half of the season, but I think it did pick up, and I think it stuck the landing.
Cool. Yeah, I'm really glad you guys liked it. It's a show that I've been recommending to people ever since the end of the first season, I'd say. I've always been a fan of it. I think it's hilarious. I think it's one of the best shows to come out of the last 10 years of TV. So I'm always glad whenever I meet another fan or when somebody actually gives it a chance based on my recommendation, because normally I'm met with, it doesn't look that good. I don't think you know what you're talking about, Brandon. Like I get that all the time. Like people are just gonna like, really? So I'm glad that you guys actually gave it a chance and ended up really liking it. All right. That being said, thank you for listening to today's episode of the Nightmares Podcast. You can check out all of our previous episodes wherever podcasts are available. And be sure to check us out on social media at Midwest Horror Network on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and Slasher.
And of course, if you're checking out this podcast on YouTube, go ahead and stab that like button, smash that subscribe, and press that little dingy bell to be notified every time we drop amazing content right here on the Midwest Horror Network. And if you're listening to this on a streaming podcast service, press the little follow button to also be notified every time we drop one of these amazing Nightmares podcasts. Thank you so much for listening. We will see you next time. Bye, guys.